The Writing Life, number 37. Trad versus Indie. A lot of writers wonder what is the difference between traditional publishing and independent publishing. Those two are usually abbreviated as Trad and Indie. And I'll mention some of the differences I've come across as someone who's been published in both. So here goes. With traditional publishing, it helps to have an agent. Trad publishers rarely accept unsolicited manuscripts. They still do, but an agent helps. Indie publishers will almost always accept unsolicited manuscripts. Neither of them accept bribes, though. I just want to make that clear. A traditional publisher will offer you an advance upon acceptance. Not all indie publishers will do that. However, indie publishers almost always give you a larger share of the royalties. Those numbers vary from publisher to publisher. Trad published books are likelier to be reviewed in something, say, like Publishers Weekly. A Trad published book has a much greater chance of making it onto the bookshelf in a brick and mortar bookstore. It also has a greater chance of making it into the remainder bin. Some indie books do make it into physical bookstores, but usually they have to sell really well beforehand first. And again, that varies from publisher to publisher. Trad editors and copy editors will always be top of the line, but their counterparts in indie are just as good these days. As far as cover art goes, Trad and indie both hire excellent artists. Unless they use AI generated covers, then you're with the wrong publisher. The only difference I've encountered when it comes to covers between Trad and indie publishers is that in Trad you get very little input into the cover design. Whereas my experience in indie, I got a lot of input in what the cover looked like. And I really like that. But off the top of my head, those are the only real differences. Because guess what? Because unless that Trad publisher is forking over a six-figure advance or more, you're going to have to do almost all your own marketing, and that's the way it is for indie writers. And more Trad and indie publishers look at a person's social media presence. They want you to have a large platform from the get-go because they see those numbers of subscribers and followers as potential readers, and thus potential cash. To be fair, I don't mean that as a criticism, because the publishing industry is a business after all, and they do want to make a profit from your books. So really it boils down to this. Trad publishing offers a greater potential for exposure and maybe money, whereas indie publishers offer a lot more creative freedom and ultimately a larger share of the profits. A lot of people seem to be on one side of the fence on the other in this debate. I'll only write for Trad. I'm only going to write for indie. Well, you know what? If you can manage both, do it. What have you got to lose?